The Minister of Works and the BPL executive respond to a member of Parliament's call to reinstate that special BPL list.
Officers of the Central Detective Unit bring 3 young men between the ages of 19 and 21 before the magistrate's court today, alleged of killing a man in his 50s in the Rock Crusher area last week.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, Minister of Works Desmond Bannister and Bahamas Power and Life Chief Executive Officer Whitney Hastie are firing back at Mangrove Key and South Andros MP Piswell Forbes, who yesterday petitioned for politicians to be protected from disconnections. Bannister says no one, least of all politicians, is entitled to special treatment. Jasmine Brown reports.
Both men say reinstating that special list is not even a remote possibility.
It certainly is not the policy of this F&M government to give anyone any special privileges. And so I have to go up to BPL and pay my bill or they will disconnect me, even though I'm the minister. And we expect the same thing from Mr. Forbes and his colleagues.
While speaking in the House of Assembly yesterday, Forbes petitioned for politicians to have protection from being disconnected by Bahamas Power and Light for non-payment, saying those who serve or served should be given the basic respect and courtesy. Forbes asserted that some people in BPL have disconnected the power supply of certain politicians to settle political scores. Bannister denied anyone is being targeted, adding that he was not shocked that Forbes would have the nerve to make such a bold request. That was a very unfortunate comment that he made. It sends the wrong message. It sends a message of privilege. It is not a message that we intend to entertain. And I'm sure that upon reflection, he appreciated that it was an unwise comment. Last September, it was revealed that several sitting and former MPs owed BPL thousands of dollars, including Forbes, but they were not disconnected for non-payment because their names were on a special list. A similar list existed at the Water and Sewage Corporation. The administration has since discontinued the policy. For his part, Hastie says there is no chance of that policy being reinstated.
We have no intentions of reinstituting no disconnect list.
He also had this piece of advice for anyone struggling to pay their bills.
We do have payment plans that if someone does find themselves into a hardship, they can come into our offices and get on a payment plan to make sure get them through the short-term or hardship that they may be encountering.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, Bahamians are reacting to the PLP MP's calls for a BPL special list to be reinstated.
How much more do they want? They already get to travel, they get to bring in for free, they get all of these other concessions that the average Bahamian does not have. I mean, lead by example. I mean, you don't pay your bill, you get turned off. It's as simple as that. What special concessions should they have?
So he's special? He's special, I tell you. He's wrong. Dead wrong. You know, but I didn't hear it. I couldn't believe it when I hear someone saying it, you know. What must he must be losing his mind. Well, they got to make it for everybody. You got to make it just for that politician. And we are just struggling. Sure. You need to take that back. You really need to go back and then take that back.
Meanwhile, others like Austin Johnson say there is nothing special about politicians.
To me, they just like regular people. They're just more, politicians just more a higher standard name that they just put on in there, just a regular thing. Before they become politicians, they had to be regular people before you become a politician. That's how it is.
But given the track record of the number of persons that have passed through the hall who have not paid their bills, on his own record, they should not have it. It's as simple as that. Because when they don't pay their bills, what? They get to stay on because they're an MP? No, lead by example. I wish I was in charge of BPL, every last one. Because when I owe BPL $49 last month, they cut me off.
Police are searching for the gunman who shot and killed a man as he was sitting in the doorway of his Iris Spring Court home off Plantal Street last night. Police press liaison officer Superintendent Shanton Knowles says the shooting incident happened shortly after 10 p.m.
A male was sitting in the doorway of his home when a vehicle here at Irish Spring Court off Planthall Street. Our information is that a vehicle came through the corner. Two men came from the vehicle. One was armed with a firearm. They approached the man and shot him before getting into their vehicle and speeding off.
Knowles says the victim is 35-year-old Chamiko Ferrin Mackey of Irish Spring Court. A woman who claimed to know the victim sang from behind crime scene tape as officers conducted a preliminary investigation. This is the third murder reported in under a week and the 8th murder for the year. As investigations continue into this latest killing, Knowles made this familiar plea to the public.
We are appealing to members of the public, especially those in this community off Planthall Street, East Street, and John Chipman Street, for any information that they may have that can assist us in solving this incident.
3 men cried in the magistrate's court today as they were arraigned on murder charges. GIORGIO BAIN has the details.
Officers of the Central Detective Unit bring 3 young men between the ages of 19 and 21 before the magistrate's court today, accused of killing that 58-year-old man in Rock Crusher last week. 21-year-old Keith Stubbs seen in the black t-shirt, 21-year-old Stefan Clark seen in the tan jacket, and 19-year-old Elvardo DeVoe seen in the blue jacket, all appeared before Chief Magistrate Joanne Ferguson Pratt in Court Number 9 to answer to 1 count of murder. It's alleged on January 19, the 3 men acting together killed 58-year-old Craig Trevor Smith. According to police reports, shortly before 9 p.m., a group of men were patronizing a local business establishment on Maxwell Lane off Lightburn Avenue when 4 men showed up. An argument ensued, and a few minutes later, gunshots were heard. The men ran. It was just later that they discovered that 1 man was unresponsive. Paramedics were called to the scene, and the victim was pronounced dead. DeVoe was represented by attorney Alan Emanuel, who told the magistrate that his client alleges that he was beaten by officers of the Central Detective Unit while in custody. Emanuel also told the magistrate that he requested to be present when his client was questioned, however, he was never contacted. The attorney also told the court that the son of the murder victim is an officer at CDU. Stubbs, who was in tears, asked the magistrate if he could address the court. He was granted permission and asked the magistrate if they could be placed in protective custody while at the Department of Corrections, as they received multiple threats of death from prisoners while at CDU. Pratt placed a note on all 3 of the suspects' files. The 3 men will return to court on the 15th of March to be presented with a voluntary bill of indictment. Reporting for R News, I'm GIORGIO BAIN.
Well, 30 former gaming board employees are suing the government for wrongful dismissal. Those employees are also reportedly seeking damages for exemplary damages, interest, and costs, and have hired Queen's Counsel Wayne MUNROE.
A writ of summons, because that would not complying with the process would amount to wrongful dismissal. It would also amount to unfair dismissal, and you get damages separately for both of those.
The summons states that the employees were terminated by way of letters dated November 1st, 2017 through December 13th, purportedly on the grounds of redundancy. But the former employees, through their attorney, are arguing that the gaming board, its servants, and/or agents failed to comply with procedures required by Section 26A of the Employment Act.
So when the government came to power and said that the public service is overmanned, overstaffed, to get rid of people because something is overstaffed by definition is redundancy. And so they would have had to put that justification for it to the labor unions and enter into talks with them. As far as I know, that did not happen.
The list of plaintiffs is relatively long and include Kayla Ward, Jean Minus, Marva Hasty, Hope Miller, and Dwayne L. Archer. Last November, Gaming Board Chairman Kenyatta Gibson confirmed that 30 employees were fired at the Gaming Board after a manpower assessment claiming the staff at the board had grown by 40% over the last 4 years.
And so it's very simple. If an employer, singular, intends to make redundant more than 20 people, there's a process that must be engaged with the union. You have to tell the union we intend to make these people redundant. This is why we intend to make them redundant. This is how we intend to make them redundant over what period of time.
So what happens next?
The next stage would be that the gaming board would have to enter an appearance. Once they enter an appearance, we would serve a statement of claim. Once we serve the statement of claim, they would have to enter their defense. Then we would go to case management before a judge.
The Minnis administration is looking to amend existing legislation in a bid to increase the flimsy fines that are paid by some utility companies who contribute to pothole-filled roads across the country. That's according to Works Minister Desmond Bannister, who admitted potholes continue to be a major issue for drivers.
We've also found extreme carelessness by some of our utilities. And I expect that we are going to amend the Roads Act. We are going to increase the penalties with respect to utilities cutting up the roads without permission and not replacing them.
According to Bannister, in many cases, the fines are less than $100. His comments come amid public demands for improvements to pothole-riddled roads. The Works Minister says that teams from his ministry, along with engineers, are addressing potholes as best as they can on a number of thoroughfares. That includes conducting technical assessments which should improve the roads in the very near future.
When we see potholes come up, the ministry has to employ a strategy where we have to send engineers out to determine whether it's simply a pothole or whether it is a subterranean cave. Once that happens, they mark it. They have to excavate it because there's a technique that has to be used so that once you remediate the problem, it doesn't come right back. So they have to excavate it and then they have to fill it. It's not a quick process.
Still to come on our news, officials from Caribbean countries come together to reduce energy costs, plus how you can become a best scholar. Stay tuned.